have brought about history with their will, with their blood, with their tears, and with their sacrifices. This moment, which we all record with these sacrifices, I wouldn't have been standing with you today as the first elected president with the will of the Egyptian people, the free will, in the first presidential elections after the revolution of the 25th of January. I wouldn't have been standing in this position with you now with this great happiness, this happiness which is being witnessed in all of Egypt. I wouldn't have been standing here were it not for God, and then were it not for these sacrifices and this blood, this cleansed blood of our martyrs, our heroic martyrs, and the cleansed blood also of, once again, of our martyrs and for our great people who were wounded. My thanks, and also I salute the martyrs. I salute the souls of the martyrs. I salute the souls of the martyrs. I salute the mothers of the martyrs. I salute the fathers of the martyrs. I salute all of our families, all those who lost some of their beloved, all those who sacrificed their beloved for the sake of Egypt. And I pray sincerely for all those martyrs and for all those who were wounded, all those people who with their blood they planted the trees of freedom. They are the ones who opened the road for us to reach this stage. And I repeat once again, certainly I express my appreciation and my thanks to the families of all those people, those who taught their sons the meaning of martyrdom and real nationalism, and those who were patient and showed perseverance after losing their beloved. They paid this price for freedom, those who showed perseverance in losing their beloved for the sake of freedom and as a price of freedom. And I renew the pledge to them and for them that this cleansed blood will not go to waste. I salute the great Egyptian people, and I salute the Egyptian army, the best soldiers of the land, the armed forces, all of the members of the armed forces, wherever they may be. I salute them sincerely from the bottom of my heart. And I express my love, which only God knows. I love those people, and I appreciate their role, and I am intent on strengthening them, and I am intent on preserving them, and I am intent on preserving this great institution, the armed forces, which we all love and appreciate. And to the members of the police force, the honorable police officers, the members of the police force, my brothers, my sons, those, some of them imagine that I might have some lower appreciation towards them, but this is wrong. I appreciate them just like anyone else. Whoever commits a crime must be punished by law. But the police force, the honorable members of the police force, and they are the majority, the honorable members, my brothers and my sons from the police force in Egypt, those people, they deserve the right to be saluted by me because they have a big role to play in the future in order to preserve the security and well-being of this country from the inside. And it is my duty as well to salute all of the Egyptian judges, those judges who oversaw and monitored the elections of Egypt of a revolution, even those who didn't monitor this process, all of the Egyptian judges, they should be appreciated, they should be respected, they should be loved, and they are the third authority, which must always remain just as it was. It must remain hanging its head high, independent, possessing its will, separate from the executive power, and this is my responsibility in the future, for the judges really to be independent from the executive authority, and also to be separate from the legislative authority. I tell everyone, to all the components of the Egyptian society, of Egyptian people, to my tribe, I tell everyone on this day that I, today, with your choice, with your will, after God, of course, with your will, I today, I am the president of all the Egyptians, wherever they may be, inside Egypt or outside Egypt. I am president of the Egyptians in all provinces, in all cities, in all villages, on its eastern borders, or its western borders, or its southern borders, or its northern borders, or even in central Egypt. Our Egyptian territories, our beloved Egyptian people, my beloved, the people of Noba, to the people of Al-Rafah and Aresh and southern Sinai, and the people of Marsa Matruh and Al-Gharb in the north, and the provinces of Delta and Port Said and the Suez Canal and Ismailiyah, Al-Sharqiyya and Kafar Sheikh and Al-Gharbiyya, Al-Munufiyya and Al-Yubiyya, Alexandria, Al-Wahat, the Red Sea, and southern Sinai, and southern Sa'id, Beni Suef, Al-Fayoum, Al-Minya, Asyut, Suhat, Ena, and Yusr, and Aswan, and An-Noba once again, and Al-Wahat. All my people, the Egyptians, all of them, Muslims and Christians, men and women, elderly and youth, the fathers, the mothers, the farmers, the labor workers, the employees, the teachers, the university professors, businessmen, people who work in the public sector, the government and the governmental sector, those who work in the private sector as well, those who work in all of the state's institutions, the traders, the drivers, the bus drivers, those who drive taxis, who drive trains. All of these are my people, the professionals, those who have their own professions, those who own small markets, those who own small businesses, those who earn their living on the streets, the students who are in private schools and in public schools, those who have professions, everyone. And I hope I don't forget anyone at all. They are all my people. I express to you and I approach you, I say to you on this day whereby after God, because of you, I have become president of all the Egyptians, I will be at one distance from all the Egyptians. Everybody will have their status. Nobody will be dealt with in a different way. They will be dealt with only according to their respect for the law and the constitution and how much they give. I cannot forget also those who work in the diplomatic arena and those who work in the intelligence services and those who are preserving the security of the country against the enemies wherever they may be. I must not forget them as well. O you Egyptian people, Egypt, this beloved Egypt, which lives in all of our hearts, it's our nation which we love. Egypt, which has impressed the whole world with its revolution and with the sacrifices of its youth, and which also shocked the world with its voter turnout, with the intent on the sons of Egypt to stand in long lines in front of the electoral committees, whether they be in the Constitutional Declaration in March 2011 or in the parliamentary elections at the end of 2011 or in the Shura elections, Shura Council elections at the beginning of year 2012 or in the presidential elections which ended on the 17th of that 6th and which we are celebrating its results today, and we respect these results. These results impressed the whole world, shocked the whole world with the long lines of voters. But Egypt now, Egypt the nation and Egypt the people is in need now of unity, unifying the word so that these great people who have shown a lot of patience so that they can get the fruits of their sacrifice by living in dignity, by social justice, by freedom and human dignity. And these are the main slogans. And I say these are the main aims which launched the revolution throughout Egypt, throughout the squares of Egypt on the 25th of January year 2011, and these calls are still being made today. These slogans are still being heard in the continuation of the revolution. The revolution is continuing until all of the aims of this revolution are achieved. Together we will continue with this march. The Egyptian people have shown a lot of patience. The Egyptian people have shown a lot of patience before and have suffered from sickness and disease and from hunger and from oppression and also from injustice and from marginalization and from falsifying the will and rigging the elections. We looked around us in the whole world and we said before, when will Egypt, when will the Egyptian people be the source of authority and power? Today, you are the source of authority and the source of power, just as the whole world is witnessing. In this great process which we are going through in Egypt, we are going towards a better stage, to a better tomorrow, to a better future, God willing. The Egyptian people have shown a lot of patience before and have suffered from disease and from hunger, from injustice and from oppression. And the moment has come whereby the Egyptian people have regained their will and their freedom and have found now a good living without hardships. The Egyptian people now have found justice, which doesn't differentiate between big and small or between a president and anyone else. Everybody is equal in front of the law. I, my dear brothers, my beloved, to all my people, to the people of Egypt, you gave me your trust and your confidence, and you gave the responsibility to me. This responsibility, this heavy responsibility, I tell all of you, with God's help and then with your will, I will live up to this. I am not better than you. I am not better than you. And I will do everything I can in order to live up to my commitments, in order to live up to my pledges, the pledges which I made to myself in front of all of you. Egypt is for all of the Egyptians. All of us are one and equal in our entitlement to rights, and all of us have duties to do for this state. With respect to me, I have no rights. I only have duties to do. I have no rights. I only have duties to do. So help me, all my people. Help me. Help me to achieve justice for you. Help me in this process. If I don't do this, if I don't live up to this, if I do not show a commitment to what I pledged, then if I don't do all of this, then I have no authority over you. I have no authority over you. I, at this historic moment, I call on all of you, you the great Egyptian people, my people. I call on you to strengthen our national unity. I call on you to further strengthen the communication between us, to strengthen our national unity, our comprehensive national unity, and resort to God, all of you, and do not divide amongst one another. We are all Egyptians, and if there are disagreements amongst us, we are all nationalists. Even if there are different political parties and different factions, we are all loyal to the revolution and to the blood of the martyrs. There is no room for a language of confrontation. There is no room for accusing anyone of betrayal amongst us. This national unity is the way, is the means now to exit, for Egypt to exit this very difficult period, to come out of this difficult period and to begin with a comprehensive project which we all carry, a comprehensive project in order to witness a real Egyptian awakening, real growth in Egypt, really using all of our resources. We have a lot of resources, thank God. God has given us a lot, and if you count these resources, you can't count them because they are a high number. As you know, these resources were wasted and there was mismanagement. Today we are in the process of managing these resources in a way which achieves the interests of all of us, God willing. I call on you to begin with a comprehensive project for an awakening, an Egyptian awakening with the muscles of all the Egyptian people. We as Egyptians, Muslims and Christians, we as Egyptians, Muslims and Christians, we call for a civilization and rebuilding. We were always like this and we will continue to be like this. We will confront together seditions and conspiracies which target our national unity, our coherence, our social coherence. As we created together the great revolution of January, I insist together with you, I insist on shocking the world once again with the awakening, with the Egyptian awakening, God willing, an Egyptian awakening which achieves dignity and stability and an honorable life for all of the Egyptian people, every free Egyptian person on Egyptian territory and soil. I am determined together with you and by you, I am determined to build the new Egypt, a national state, a constitutional, democratic, modern state. And all my time and my efforts will focus on this project in accordance with our identity. And I will work together with you. I will work very hard in order to preserve Egypt's national security in all its angles, its Arab and African and regional and international perspectives and arenas. We will preserve all of the international documents and treaties. We came to the whole world with a message of peace, and we will preserve the international treaties. And we will also be committed to all of the agreements, all the Egyptian commitments and agreements with the whole world, and we will work for the sake of the Egyptian standards. The Egyptian standards and the Egyptian identity must add to the humanitarian standards, especially with respect to freedoms and respecting of human rights, and also preserving the rights of the women and the families and the children, and cancelling out any type of differentiation or discrimination. We will lay the foundations, God willing, we will lay the foundations for equal and balanced ties between all world forces, all world powers. We will lay the foundations for equal balanced ties between us and all of the countries of the world. Ties which are based on mutual interests, ties which are based on mutual respect, ties which are based on benefits between the different sides, different equal sides, and on equal benefits between all of the sides. And we will not allow ourselves to intervene in the internal affairs of any country. And we will also not allow any intervention in our internal affairs. And we will preserve in this way, necessarily, we will preserve our national sovereignty and we will preserve the borders of the Egyptian state. Let everybody know that the Egyptian decision from inside Egypt, with the will of its people, with the will of the sons of Egypt, let everybody know that Egypt, with our call for peace, with the whole world, Egypt, despite this, is capable, with its people and with its men, with all of its people, with its armed forces, with its great history. Egypt, with all of this, it's capable of defending itself, and it's capable of preventing any assault or any aggression, and even preventing anyone from thinking of launching an aggression against it or against its people, wherever this side may be. My beloved, my great Egyptian people, my sons, I realize the challenges of the current phase. However, I am sure that with God's help and also with our cooperation, with your support, you beloved, we will be able to overcome this period quickly, and Egypt will hence become a strong leading state, a leading state for the Ummah, a leading state in its world. This is the fate of Egypt, and this is what awaits Egypt. This is the destiny and fate of Egypt, and this is what awaits Egypt in the future, God willing. And I repeat once again, I assure you, we are all happy and we are celebrating. We are celebrating this great democracy. We are celebrating these elections. We are celebrating the victory of the will of the Ummah in the way which you celebrate today. Now, I repeat once again, and I stress what I said before, what I announced before, that I will not betray God with you. I will not betray God with you, and I will not work against God in my nation. My focus is what God said. Remember the day where you resort to God once again, and then everybody will see his deeds. Remember the day when you will go back to God, and then everybody will be shown what he did. There will be no injustice. Repeat with me, my beloved, with our will, with our unity, with our love for one another, we can create a good future for all of us. Some people outside this nation might not say this possible. Some people might think this is difficult for us to achieve, maybe because they feel pity for us, or maybe for some other reason. However, God willing, we are capable of going forward in this march to a better tomorrow. And God is the one who can make us achieve success. He can put us on the right path. My beloved, some people see this very far-fetched, but together, God willing, we see it close. And tomorrow is near, and God is the one who has the final say. However, most people don't know. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Egyptian President-elect Mohammed+morsi there speaking from the capital, Cairo. Just a very quick wrap-up of what he had to say. Some interesting points he did make. He started off with calling this a very historical moment in Egypt's history that had been written in blood, tears and the sacrifices of the Egyptian people. He thanked the Egyptian people for their sacrifices and for adhering to the goals of the revolution, persevering for freedom and justice. He said, "I would not be standing here as Egypt's first elected president had it not been for the sacrifices of the Egyptian people." And he also honored the martyrs who sowed the seed of freedom, according to what Morsi said. Now, the president-elect also went on to express a gratitude for the people to continue to persevere for the sake of the country and freedom. He said, an interesting point there, that he was intent on preserving and strengthening institutions of the country, including the armed forces. There are, of course, unconfirmed reports of negotiations between the Muslim Brotherhood and the ruling military council over a power-sharing deal. We'll have to see how that develops, but the statement says a lot, if nothing, about preserving and strengthening the institution of the armed forces. Morsi went on to say that the judiciary shall also remain independent under him. He spoke of the police department and praised them as well. He pledged that he would respect all Egyptians within and outside the country, being their president. He said Muslims, Christians, men, women, youth and the elderly, no one will be given any special treatment. All will be equal under the constitution and law of Egypt. He said the revolution will continue on its path until all aims are achieved, and he called on the Egyptian people to help him in achieving these goals and realizing the very goals and the goals of the revolution, the path upon which they have embarked, and thus elected him as president. He also pledged to try and live up to the expectations and the responsibility that the Egyptian people have entrusted upon him. Now, Mohammed+morsi also calls on the people for national unity, saying that if I fail to fulfill my duty, I will have no authority over you. But national unity is the one thing that will help Egypt to pass this testing time and move along the path of success and development. He said he was determined to build a new Egypt with the help of the Egyptian people, a constitutionally democratic and modern Egypt. He hit all the right tones, speaking about hope, change, dignity, freedom, equality, also Egypt for Egyptians, that resonated with the people across Egypt. But very interesting point that he did make was that he will preserve all international treaties and honor all previous agreements in the name of peace. This, of course, raises the concerns over the Camp David agreement between Egypt and Israel, which has been very disliked and opposed by the Egyptian people. And there was that hope that any new president that they would elect would first and foremost scrap that deal with Israel and recognize the fact that Egypt can help the Palestinian cause by scrapping this accord. Now, Morsi's claims that he will not be scrapping any of such agreements and honor all commitments that have bounded Egypt in the past does raise that concern, of course. We will obviously be continuing to discuss Morsi's comments and analyze them later in our broadcast as well. It was just a very quick wrap-up of what the president-elect had to say. Of course, you can log on to our website, press+tv.ir, for more on that. Well, still staying with Egypt, now the United States reaction to the election of Muslim Brotherhood's candidate Mohammed+morsi as Egypt's president. Now, Washington has said it wants the new government to continue its policy toward Israel. The White House spokesman Jay Carney says Morsi's government must continue to act as a pillar of peace in the region. He's also calling on the Egyptian president-elect to consult with all parties before forming his government. Well, Egypt has a long-standing peace accord with Israel. As I mentioned earlier, Washington's been paying over $1 billion to Cairo annually, so it will keep the treaty. After dictator Hosni Mubarak even helped Israel in its siege on the Gaza Strip. Morsi beat Mubarak's last Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq by winning 51.7% of the votes. His presidency comes 16 months after Egyptians toppled Hosni Mubarak's regime. And again, his latest comment saying that he will preserve all international treaties and honor all previous agreements in the name of peace sort of goes along what the U.S. has called upon.
Thousands and thousands of people converge on the home of the Egyptian revolution to know who the country's next president is.
الفائز بمنصب رئيس جمهورية مصر العربية في الانتخابات التي جرت يومي 16 و17 من يونيو هو السيد الدكتور محمد مرسي عيسى العياط.
And this is the reaction from a sea of Morsi's supporters at Liberation Square. Chants of Huria, Arabic for freedom.
Thanks to God, the revolution succeeded. The revolution will continue. We are not leaving here.
This is the result of efforts made by all Egyptians during and after the revolution, as well as during the election.
Egypt's Election Commission says Morsi won 51.73% of the votes in the June 16 and 17 election, and former Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq won 48.27%. Morsi is already receiving congratulatory messages from foreign countries, including Iran. What's next for Egypt? Morsi's election campaign has called for people to stay in the streets until the supplementary constitutional declaration is revoked. The declaration, drawn up by the junta, strips the president of most of his powers. As some people say, Egypt is on track toward democracy. Many others fear the constitutional powers the military has given itself will rob Egyptians of the benefits of electing their first president after the downfall of the former regime.
Well, joining us now from the Egyptian capital is our correspondent Karim Gamal-Ad-Din to tell us a bit more. Karim, Morsi has spoken. Of course, the people around you must have been listening very intently to what their president-elect had to say. What are the reactions coming forth, specifically in light of his comments such as he wants to preserve and strengthen institutes like the armed forces?
Well, the people here in Cairo's landmark Liberation Square have been listening very closely to the comments of Egypt's President Mohammed+morsi, and after that they have received his comments with joy and happiness, and after that they started, as you can see, firing fireworks in the air and singing the national anthem and patriotic songs. The people are happy to see Egypt's president, newly elected president, post-revolution president, to speak to his own people and to speak about the demands of the revolution, that he would achieve these demands of the revolution, which made the people, these thousands of people that you see behind me, take to the streets and denounce the dictatorship of either Hosni Mubarak or the military council, who many people believe is just another face of Mubarak, and are hoping that Egypt's new president Mohammed+morsi will combat the military council or the remnants of the previous regime who are trying to lead a counter-revolution or to hijack the revolution with all its demands and objectives. People here have also called for the amendment of the Camp David Treaty with Israel, and also a halt of gas exports to Israel, which has been exported in the past last during Mubarak's reign way below market prices, and they have been used by Israel, and the country, Egypt itself, has been suffering from gas shortage while Hosni Mubarak was exporting plenty of gas to Israel way below market prices. So many people wish that Egypt's new president would review the Camp David Treaty and would make some amendments if necessary. That would people want these amendments to revive the Egyptian dignity and pride, which many people feel they have lost during Mubarak's reign, and that the people also feel that Egypt's regional role has deteriorated or has been marginalized in the past years, as Hosni Mubarak has only been concerned of backing the United States and aiding Israel in strengthening its grip on Gaza and the occupied Palestinian territory. So the people hope that Egypt's new president will review this Camp David Treaty and all the other treaties with international treaties with the other countries, that the treaties that undermine Egypt or that Hosni Mubarak was made a decision on an individual basis, and that he was not. It's not his decisions or these treaties were against the will of the people and not for the greater good of the people. It was just Mubarak was just abusing power and profiteering from his position as president of Egypt for the past 30 years.
Right now,
Yes.
Karim, the question of Israel has also been on the minds of most Egyptians, as they feel that the Camp David Accord is unfair and does not represent the will of the Egyptian people. Right now, we've just heard Morsi say that he will respect all agreements and previous deals that Egypt has made. This does mean that most likely the Camp David Accord will be respected by this new president. How do you think people are going to respond to that? Right now there is a lot of euphoria on the streets, but when it does die down and the reality sinks in, how do you think people are going to respond to that?
Well, Egyptians throughout this year and a half following the ouster of the longtime dictator Hosni Mubarak, the people have shown anti-Israeli sentiments, and the tensions between Egypt and Israel have heightened post-revolution, and that we have seen a temporary halt of gas export to Israel, and we have seen continuous protests outside the Israeli embassy last year, calling for the ouster of the Israeli ambassador and the suspension of ties with Israel, and the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador. We have seen people showing extreme dissatisfaction with the policies of Hosni Mubarak, with Israel and the United States, and the people hope that Egypt's new president, in fact, Mohammed+morsi, will respect the will of the people, as he has just indicated in his comments, and that as if the people show more and more anti-Israeli sentiments, this might force or pile pressure on the new president to respond to the demands, the revolutionary demands of the people, and to respond to the will of the people post-revolution, which they have shown anti-Israeli sentiments, and they have been calling for the expulsion of the Israeli ambassador to Cairo and the full suspension of ties with Israel. And also they have been calling for a boycott to the U.S. aid, which has made many people lose their pride, their national pride and dignity in the country, as they feel that the United States is using this aid to make the people of Egypt, and as well as the rulers, the military rulers, bow to the threats of the United States. But the people will not tolerate that anymore, as they have shown extreme anti-Israeli and anti-U.S. sentiments, and we're expected to see further anti-Israeli sentiments and anti-U.S. sentiments in the coming days and the coming months.
All right, we're going to have to wait and see how that happens. That was our correspondent Karim Gamaluddin reporting there from Cairo. Karim, thank you for that update there. Well, meanwhile, celebrations have erupted in the occupied territories as Muslim Brotherhood's Mohammed+morsi wins Egypt's presidential election. Well, these are scenes from the Gaza Strip. Joyous Palestinians pouring into the streets despite years of suffering from an Israeli blockade. A blockade which Tel Aviv imposed on Gaza in collaboration with Egypt's ousted leadership. But now many Palestinians say they're optimistic that the new president in Cairo can change things for the better. Oh, there's news coming out of Yemen. Now protesters there in the city of Taiz are once again out on the streets to reject dialogue with the government. The protesters are against the government because it's equally shared between the political opposition and officials from deposed ruler Ali Abdullah Saleh's regime. The new government was formed earlier this year under a power-sharing deal directly backed by Saudi Arabia and the U.S. The deal also kept some of Saleh's allies in key military posts. That's why the protesters are angry. They say the deal ignores their main demand, that's the downfall of Saleh's regime. Now the demonstrators say they will keep up their rallies until they achieve the goals of their revolution, which started in February last year. Well, with that, we come to an end of World News here on Press TV. But before we leave you, there's breaking news coming out of Syria as armed groups have targeted oil pipelines in Syria's Deir al-Zor. We'll bring you more details on that. But again, armed groups have targeted the oil pipeline in Deir al-Zor. Of course, for a minute-by-minute update, there's always presstv.ir. It's bye for now.
When I arrived in Palestine, I could not believe my eyes. I knelt down and kissed the ground. All those questions had something to do with Israel and didn't mean to harm Egypt in any way.
They occupied and stole my land and murdered my people and killed and disfigured us.
It felt like your skin was on fire. Those torture sessions would last 1 or 2 hours. If we, in national security, could, we would burn Gaza.
Hello, this is Reporter's File.
Natalie Carney for Press TV.
Press TV,
Sofia.
Alifia Nurani.
mohammed+morsi, Press TV. Ramin Mazaheri.
Anna Maria Magnusson. Kiev.
Ibo Morgan, Press TV.
Liberia's instability began during the 1980s, as arbitrary rule and economic collapse led to civil war. Liberia's children are almost a lost generation. Their growing up was done on the battlefield, and fighting is the only way of life they know.
They don't know who they are. They have no gravitas in society. And so anything that sparks looting, robbing, stealing, they've been used to it for so long. It's 14 years of war, murder, and mayhem.
Some were on the front line. Some in support roles. Some were simply used for sex.